Hi, welcome to Bread Street in Penzance. I'm Delpha Hudson, and this is my studio here, right in the middle of town. Coming into my studio, it's usually open studios in Cornwall this week, and unfortunately no one will be open. I'd love to share some of my work with you. I work with a lot of bitumen. I drip bitumen onto paintings as well as other techniques. Some of these small watercolours I've been doing during the crisis of people's lives and people's stories. So I paint to tell stories, and some of the work that I do references old painting, like this frieze here. And all of the women in this painting in some way are looking after children. So my work is about the domestic and home life. You don't see grand historical narratives of the domestic. So it's been very relevant for me during lockdown to be thinking about how people are managing at home and how we value carers. So here we've got two mothers from different cultures dealing with their care at home and outside in this particular instance. I think carers find it hard to value the work that they do. Mothers and parents find it very hard to work in that way, to give value to themselves because other people don't value them. So a lot of my work over the 20 years that I've been dripping bitumen has been about the domestic. Here we've got an older piece from maybe even 15 years ago, which was one of the pieces that was in a few shows around the UK. It shows some curtains. So I was obsessed and am obsessed and very passionate about different ways that we can evoke home life. And these were a pair of curtains. So since then I've developed a more intricate dripping style, and I like to tell these stories because we empathise with others through stories. We create ourselves and our lives through stories. This particular piece that you're looking at now is called Sleepless Nights, Complicated Days, and was planned before the lockdown and quarantine, and painted during, and evoked in many ways the complications and exhaustion of people who care. So it felt very resonant during the crisis. So all of these tiny figures in many ways are grouped together as part of my imagination. They're from life because we all know how people look, how they move, and I love the way bitumen can enable people to move. And then build up stories and narratives. This looks like an old master painting and is referencing it in many ways, but it's actually also playing around with kind of dark humour about technology in this particular painting, which kind of unites us and divides us, and it turns out actually unites us during the crisis. So these washing machines and these figures in relation to each other, they are part of our experience at home, something that isn't generally represented, and they are made to laugh at the condition of working at home with so little value. So now perhaps we're all at home, things have really changed, and my arts practice and my paintings use colour and textures, as you can see all the textures in here, to ask questions. But I need to fix that up a little bit more. There we go, real-time video. So we're going to move around the corner and I'll show you how I drip the bitumen whilst I hold this up. Moving around the corner now, please. So, bitumen paint. Yes, lots of artists use bitumen paint. You'd be surprised. And yes, it is smelly, so I'm going to use some gloves, and my door is open. I won't go so far as a mask. This one's been sitting around getting stickier, like molasses, for some time now. I use blackjack, there you go, from Jim's up the road. And it is something that you might use on your shed. But what it has is, besides it's a unique kind of chemical makeup, which obviously has its own issues as well sometimes, is its very stickiness creates unique lines. So every time I make a painting, it is completely unique. I can't copy it again. I can have a go, but the bitumen sort of does its own thing, to be honest. So, for example, I mean, I spend a lot of time drawing figures and working out what I'm going to do, and but in some cases I might just have a real sort of doodle, and I might work freestyle, but you can see, because of the nature of dripping, it has its own sort of unique issues. So here's a little face. Here we go. I've got to do tiny, tiny little eyes. So when it goes wrong, it goes wrong, and there are ways I've developed of sort of correcting things if necessary. But what it also does is that it just makes it really unique. So it's not quite like any other drawing. So you can get arms. Their hands are really tricky. And you can maybe do all sorts of movement, which creates quite unique and different ways. I can really use my imagination. I don't have to stick to reality. And yet my stories are about things that are real. So she's got, or he has got flowers and scribbles coming through there. And because it's one continuous line, it's quite tricky to go back, perhaps. So that's one of the processes I use. Not everything I do with bitumen, but you can see it does have this unique way about it, where you've got these layers that can be created, and so it's very tactile, and using oil colour on top. It's very complicated to get it to settle all down again, and it's all sealed in with varnish. So I'd like you to come and see me when lockdown is over. I'm going to show you outside of my studio. I love conversations about art and ideas, and I'm happy to do commissions as well as talk to you about what interests you about home life and painting, and if you are interested in anything I've said today, perhaps come and have a look at my website, which is www.delphahudsonartist.co.uk, which is one of my websites besides the other sculptural work that I do. So do come and see me, open studios or not. It'd be lovely to have you. Goodbye.